If you were to ask someone, who are the mascots of Halloween, a lot of people would probably just point to some movie monsters, or just say basic witches, vampires, and werewolves. And while that's all well and good, I personally consider the top 3 mascots of Halloween to be the people known as Stingy Jack, the Boogeyman, and the Headless Horseman. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, hey, what about Samhain or Samhain? Like that thing, isn't that thing a big symbol of Halloween? Well, yeah, but that's not a person or a deity. That's the name of a festival. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Maybe I'll do a video on that sometime in the future, but for now, let's focus on these 3 symbols of the most wonderful time of the year. Stingy Jack is probably the most important and significant Halloween mascot out there, and yet, unfortunately, he's one of the least well known. Well, let's fix that. Here's his story. Centuries ago in Ireland, there was a town drunk whom the people called either Stingy Jack or Flaky Jack. He was not only a ridiculous alcoholic, but also a liar, a manipulator, and a trickster. In fact, his reputation got so bad, it somehow reached the devil himself. And so the devil decided to go to Earth to collect his soul and see if he lived up to this nasty reputation of his. The devil found Jack wandering around drunk at night. Jack was scared at first, which is natural when you randomly encounter the devil during a late-night walk, but then he composed himself and had one last request. He told the devil, if you're gonna take my soul today, at least let me have one last night of drinking. And the devil thought, yeah, fair enough. So he took Jack to a nearby pub and supplied him with a whole bunch of booze and let him go to town on it. And I guess the bartender didn't have a problem with the devil being there. When Jack was done drinking, he asked the devil to pay the tab, at which point the devil realized, oh, wait, I came here to collect a soul, I didn't bring any money with me. So Jack told the devil, hey, you have powers, right? Just turn yourself into a silver coin, we'll use that to pay the tab, and then you can turn back when the bartender's not looking and we can be on our way. The devil agreed, seeing no problem with this, but once he turned into a silver coin, Jack put the coin in his pocket, where he also had a crucifix, which rendered the devil powerless. Jack said he would only free the devil if he agreed to leave Jack alone for 10 years, and the devil had no choice but to agree. Not sure how he paid that tab, though. But the devil is nothing if not punctual, for 10 years later on the dot, he showed up again to take Jack's soul to hell, and true to form, Jack was once again drunk wandering the countryside. Jack seemed to accept his fate this time, and just said to the devil, alright, let's go to hell, but could you just grab me an apple from that tree so I have something to eat during the journey? And like an idiot, the devil agreed. As you can probably already tell, this did not go the devil's way. As soon as he was up in that tree to get the apple, Jack surrounded the base of the tree with crucifixes, because I guess Jack just constantly has all the crucifixes with him. What, was there a buy in bulk deal at the church or something? There is another version of the story where he carves a crucifix into the tree, but either way, the devil was rendered powerless and trapped once again, and he was pretty pissed off at this point, but he had to adhere to Jack's demand, and Jack's new demand was that the devil never take him into hell. Not sure why he didn't ask that last time, but maybe he was just too drunk to think of it. However, just because you're not going to hell doesn't mean you ain't gonna die, and eventually, through all of his bad habits, Jack did drink himself to death. After death, his spirit tried to wander its way up into heaven and enter the pearly gates, but for pretty obvious reasons, they wouldn't let him in. They were like, no way, not after the life you have lived. So, there was only one place left to go, hell. Jack took another long journey and wandered his way to the gates of hell, where he encountered an old friend once again. Jack begged the devil to let him into hell, but the devil basically said, sorry sucker, no can do. You remember that promise I made you a long time ago? That I would never let you in here? Yeah, I'm sticking to it. Jack then begged the devil to at least help him find some way to navigate the darkness of limbo. And so the devil, in an act of both mercy and cruelty, tossed him an ember from hell, which was too hot for Jack to hold. So, what Jack did was he took a nearby turnip, because I guess there are turnips outside the gates of hell, who knew they had a gardener, and he put the ember in the turnip, and used it to light his way back to the realm of mortals. Jack was now cursed to wander the earth forever, unalive but unable to pass on. His skin withered away into a skeleton, and because he walked around carrying a turnip as a lantern, he acquired a new nickname, Jack of the Lantern. In case you can't tell by now, this story is the mythical origin of jack-o'-lanterns. The Irish didn't have pumpkins, so they used turnips for their jack-o'-lanterns. But when they came to America and brought this tradition with them and found pumpkins, they switched over to those because they were bigger and easier to carve. And this resulted in some tellings of the Stingy Jack story having him use a pumpkin instead of a turnip. There also seems to be a lot of iconography where Jack now wears his jack-o'-lantern as a new head. I love this iconography and I think it's a great symbol for Halloween, but I'm honestly not sure where it came from, since it doesn't seem to be a part of his story, and I can't really find any source for it. I'm open to help on that. There's an alternate version of the story called Jack the Smith, where instead of a town drunk, Jack is a blacksmith who gives his soul to the devil in exchange for perfection in his craft. I personally prefer the town drunk version. I think that makes for a more entertaining, trickster, hateable character, and has a bit of a better moral to it. Stingy Jack's importance to Halloween should be very obvious at this point. I mean, come on! What is a more important symbol of Halloween than the jack-o'-lanterns? They're the first thing everyone thinks of when they think of Halloween. He's also the inspiration behind any pumpkin head or pumpkin king things you see in media or decorations, including Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Hopefully we'll start seeing his legend be showcased a little more, because in my opinion, this guy deserves to be just as well known as Santa Claus. The Headless Horseman is a figure who has roots in both Irish folklore and American literature. In Ireland, his name is Dullahan, and he basically serves as the Grim Reaper. The stories don't seem to say exactly how Dullahan lost his head, but he still carries it with him, along with a human spine that he wields as a whip. Dullahan also has multiple ways of getting around. Like, sometimes he'll just ride his signature black horse, but when he wants to class it up or maybe collect multiple souls, he'll bring an entire stagecoach with him, known simply as the Death Coach. There are tales in Ireland of people who encounter the death coach pulled by headless horses, and later finding out that people in their town have died that same night, thus indicating that the sight of the death coach is an omen of death itself. Dullahan's legend states that when he enters the human world, he cannot leave it unless he comes back with a human soul, indicating that Dullahan will never stop chasing you until he gets you. There's no way to get away from him. And when he's in a particularly weird mood, he'll go around knocking on people's doors, and anyone who's unfortunate enough to open the door will have blood splashed on them by him. Kind of a dick move, dude. What, were you mad they didn't give you candy or something? Dullahan is the Irish version, but what really made the Headless Horseman popular in America and a symbol of Halloween was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, a book written in 1820 that surprisingly was very faithfully adapted by Disney in 1949. Yeah, that Ichabod movie? It's pretty darn close to the original story. In this story, the Headless Horseman is the restless spirit of a Hessian soldier who had his head blown off by a cannon in the Revolutionary War. That's a heck of a way to go. And it was inspired by true history. This is also the story where we get the iconic image of the horseman holding up a jack-o'-lantern, cause see in the book, at one point, he throws his head at Ichabod Crane to try to kill him, but then it's revealed the next day that that head was actually just a pumpkin, indicating that there was no horseman and the whole thing was just a prank. Whether you prefer the Irish version or the American version, or heck, even the Keenan and Kel version, the Headless Horseman has certainly left his mark on the world of horror. It's amazing how a character with no face can be so recognizable. The Boogeyman is a name we are all familiar with. The name comes from the word bogey, which means the frightening specter. However, the Boogeyman is a legend that is so widespread and so predominant in all different cultures that there is no one definitive version of them. Boogeyman is basically a blanket term for any deadly creature parents use as a way to terrify good behavior into their children. 'Cause, yeah, that's a great way to raise kids. Well, I guess it must be, since literally every culture ever has done it at some point. It's one thing we all have in common. Some examples of this include the Sack Man, who puts naughty children into his bag and takes them away. El Coco, or El Cucuy, who hides under children's beds and devours them if they disobey their parents. The Boogeyman, who hides in any dark part of your bedroom and attacks children who stay up past their bedtime. The Babu, a tall man in a dark coat who knocks on your parents' door and offers to relieve them of any ill-behaved children. The Namahaj, who pretty much does the same thing as the Babu. The Kuka, an alligator woman who collects disobedient children and makes them into either soup or soap. Yeah, seriously. And of course, Michael Myers. Come on, I had to put that in there. There are plenty more examples I could go over, and maybe someday I'll make a dedicated video to all these boogeymen, but for now I think you get the idea. The Boogeyman is not only a huge symbol of Halloween, but the symbol for fear all over the world. And for that, he not only deserves his spot as one of the main 3 mascots of Halloween, but the ultimate mascot for horror in general. Who's your favorite mascot of Halloween? Is there one you consider more important than one of these 3? Let me know. Have a happy Halloween, and I don't know how to end videos.